Hi everybody, John here with Cruiser Customizing. Today we're going to be installing this Cobra PowrPro black tuner on our 2013 Ultra Classic. And by the end of the day, I'm going to be able to program this beast right from my smartphone. To install our Cobra PowrPro black tuner, we're going to have to gain access to some of the factory connections on this bike. We need to get access to the fuel injector connections right up front. We also need to get to the O2 sensor connections that are right underneath the right side cover. So to do all of that, we're going to have to remove some of these panels. So we'll be taking off the saddlebags, the seat, the right side cover, and we're also going to loosen up that fuel tank so we can prop it up to get access to those fuel injector connections right up front. So let's go ahead and get started. Before you start to loosen your fuel tank up, make sure your handlebars are at a 45-degree angle. If you don't do this, as the tank rotates forward, this portion of the filler cap and the chrome on the front are going to smash right into the steering lock system. So if you've got it at a 45-degree angle, you're going to have the clearance you need. So let's go ahead and start removing some bolts here. The first bolt I'm going to remove, it's actually just holding in place a little plastic cover that goes over top of these rear tank bolts. So we'll just loosen that up so we can slide that plastic cover out of here. Next up, we've got the tank bolts themselves. There's actually two just right here on the rear of the tank. So let's go ahead and get these things pulled out. The last couple bolts I'm going to mess with here are right on the very front of the fuel tank. They're going to be underneath a little rubber cover right up front here. You can just pop that out of the way. Now, one thing to note, these don't actually have to be removed all the way. You just need to loosen them up a couple turns because that's going to be our pivot point for this tank. That should do for now. Let me grab the other side. All right, with everything loosened up, now we can actually just take a small wooden block. We'll lift the rear portion of the tank, and then we can get access to those fuel injector points right underneath the fuel tank. All right, with the tank all lifted up, now I can go back around to the other side, and we'll start running our wiring for that PowrPro Black module to go all the way up to the fuel injectors, connect into the battery and those O2 sensors. Before we start routing all the wires for our new programmer, first we need to identify where they're going to go. So we've got a couple different pigtail leads coming off of this thing. The first one here, the long one, that's actually going to go to the fuel injectors. We'll be routing that through the frame here. Make sure you go underneath the frame rail so the seat doesn't sit on it, and then we'll route it up to where the fuel injector connections are up underneath the tank and plug those in place. We've also got a ground wire. This is going to go directly to the negative lead on the battery. Again, make sure that goes underneath that frame rail and you'll connect it into that negative lead on the battery. And then last but not least, we've got two shorter pigtails. These are actually going to go to the O2 sensors. And Cobra has actually made this process extremely simple, and it's kind of hard to screw up. So on our fuel injector leads, they've actually marked one of them as front, so that's going to go to our front cylinder. And also on the O2 sensors, as you can see, the connectors are two different colors. We've got a gray and a black. Those are going to color coordinate with what's already on the bike. So you just unplug the factory connections. These will go in line and then you plug everything back in. It's all plug and play. It's super simple. No splicing, no taping, no crimping. All you got to do is unplug the factory connection and plug in the one from Cobra in line, plug the factory connection back in. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to set the programmer in between our main wiring harness here on the side of the bike, right in front of that brake module, and we're going to start running these wires. With everything installed, now we can go ahead and test this unit out. Before we put everything back together, we want to make sure all our connections are good. So what we'll do, we'll go ahead and start this thing up and go through the application and make sure everything's going to work the way it's supposed to. So we'll turn the bike on and start it up. All right, the very first thing you want to do on this is make sure you've got a connection. There'll be a little link right up in the top right-hand corner. You click on that. When it turns blue, you've got connection with the unit, and you're ready to start making changes. The very first thing we're going to take a look at here is the fuel tuning. It's going to be your first selector here at the very top. As you open this up, it's going to give you options for cruise and acceleration tuning. You can tap those around anywhere you want them. Please note that you do have to agree that any changes with the fuel tuning is done at the risk of the bike owner and operator. That's a note straight from Cobra. They want you to agree to that before you can make any changes. We'll just cancel out of that for now, but if you tap, you can adjust those as you wish. Next up, we've got the RPM gauge. The RPM gauge is going to be just like your tack right up on the dash. It's going to show you all the RPMs on the bike. As you rev the bike up, you're good to go. It's just going to show that RPM gauge swirling around there and all the RPMs on the bike. Next up, we've got the duty cycle on the injectors. This is going to show how those injectors are working and how they're functioning with the new system. So we'll go ahead and back out of that one. Next up, we've got our tuning display. The tuning display, again, this is going to allow you to make changes on the bike. You've got readouts here on the bottom. All of these things are going to be specific to the unit and to this bike, just direct readout as you're riding down the road in real time, so you can make adjustments as needed. And with that tuning display, you can actually go down to the next block, figure out what you need to do here. You can take away fuel. Again, they make it super easy. You do have to, once again, agree. If you don't do that, you can't make any changes. You tap to adjust anything you need to adjust within the system there, and you can make sure the ratio of air to fuel is exactly what you need for the exhaust system and the intake that you have. So that's going to be our quick look at the application and our new PowrPro Black from Cobra. We've actually done this install today because we're going to be installing a new set of headers, some exhaust pipes, and a new Cobra intake on this thing. So we've got a few more projects lined out for our 2013 Ultra Classic Limited, so we're super excited about that. Please stay tuned for those videos. If you haven't done so far, you can actually just subscribe in the lower right hand corner. Just click on that Cruiser Customizing logo and you won't miss any of the upcoming videos we're going to have. If you have any questions on our install today, please let me know in the comment section below. That's going to wrap us up. I'm going to go ahead and button everything up here, reattach the fuel tank, throw the saddlebags back on this thing, and get it ready for our next project. So until I see you next time, my name's John. Please ride safe.